Welcome to the chapter on strain isolation. In this section, we'll be going from spore print to single sector isolate, so sit back and enjoy. As this section starts, you'll see I'm holding a Petri dish in my hand over here to the right, and I'm holding the Petri dish up so that the mycelium side is against a lamp, and we're looking at it from the agar side, from the reverse. If we can swing this little cage I'm in around so I can get a better view, there we go. What I want to do is point out to you the various sectors that have emerged here, and I'm going to put a spotlight on each one. And I'm going to go slowly so that you can kind of jump out ahead and anticipate where these spotlights are going to come up at. Now, these spotlights are lighting up the individual sectors, and each one of these sectors is a strain that is differentiated. And what we are going to do later is take a tiny piece of mycelium from each of these sections, and we will transfer those to new Petri dishes to grow out. Each one we will then transfer to grains, and we'll save a sample of the Petri dish and keep it in the refrigerator. And later on, as we fruit these, the ones that turn out to be the really good performers we are going to save. The ones that are not so good we'll toss out. Okay, that's good. Let's swing back around now. Okay, there you are. So the process is going to be, as I said, take a small piece of mycelium, transfer it to new Petri dishes. We may have to make an additional transfer or two until we come up with absolute single sector isolates. Then each of those will be put onto grains and fruited individually. Now, our best producing strains we will then make master culture slants, as you saw how to do in that chapter, or that you will have to see if you haven't watched that section yet. But that's how we'll save our strains into perpetuity. Let's get started. Here's a picture of the same Petri dish you saw during the introduction from the backside. This is showing the front side right after I had made the transfers doing strain isolation. These two pictures were actually taken 3 or 4 years ago for a mycology class I was teaching at the time. In a few moments, we're going to look at some actual video footage of strain isolations in progress. Now, you'll notice as I zoom in at about the 3 o'clock position, there's an area of fuzzy mycelium. I didn't transfer it all from there. And if you'll look over at about the 9 o'clock position, I'll put a spotlight on that. You'll see there was one more sector that for some reason that day I didn't transfer, but very well could have. So let's get on to some actual video footage of strain isolations. As with everything you'll do in agar work, the first step is always to flame sterilize your scalpel until it's red hot. Then you can cool the blade down by dragging it through the receiving dish before you make your transfer. Looking at the dish on the right, you'll see 3 growths. These represent the original transfer from the first swipe of spores on a Petri dish. And looking around the perimeter, you can see at least a dozen individual sectors opening up. Each of these sectors can be transferred to a new Petri dish to grow out. This little wedge didn't want to get captured. It kept trying to get away. As I make this second transfer, I'm going to hit the pause button for a second here. I want you to notice the position my hands are in. If you'll look at my left hand, the way it's holding the lid, no part of my fingers are wrapped around under the lid, and I'm holding the front part of the lid up so that the sterile airflow from the flow hood continually washes it. If you look over at my right hand, I'm reaching over the dish with the scalpel, and no part of my right hand is coming between the flow hood and the Petri dish. The Petri dishes are always pushed right up against the flow hood. That is the cleanest air that we have available. And at no time do you want to allow anything but your flame sterilized scalpel to come anywhere near your agar. Each of these three cultures you see here has at least a dozen or more sectors emerging. I'm only going to show you transfers on a couple of them because I'm sure you get the point already. But you can easily see how doing one series of strain isolations can use up several sleeves of Petri dishes. Now I want to pause one more time and show you hand position again. Notice as I make these transfers, you're now seeing me lift two dishes at once. It works out easier if you'll keep your dishes in a vertical stack right in the center of your flow hood. And then on your first transfer, you're lifting one lid. On your next set of transfers, you're lifting two and two Petri dishes, and you work your way down to the bottom of the stack that way. That keeps your work right in the center of the flow hood and your most sterile area. About 4 or 5 days later, this is what you can expect to see. There's still a bit of sectoring, so we're going to have to make some more transfers, but you'll notice there's far fewer sectors on each of these cultures than there was on the previous set. If you have a species that produces rhizomorphic mycelium, that's the type you want to transfer. So if you look in the top right, the area from about 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock looks like the best place to get transfers. And from the culture over there on the left, about the same, just about noon to 6 o'clock, you see 3 or 4 rhizomorphic sectors emerging in there. So those are the ones you would want to transfer. And chances are, once you transfer from this dish, your next transfer, you'll have a monoculture. And that's what I'm going to show you some pictures of next. This next picture is oyster mushroom mycelium, and this is a result of 4 or 5 transfers to get to this point. Now bear in mind, you're going to end up with 30 or 40 cultures once you get down to single sector isolates, and you do want to fruit out each one individually to find out the 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 or 4 really incredible fruiters that you're going to have, and those you will transfer to test tube slants. This next picture is a monoculture of the Namiko mushroom. In our section on spore printing, you saw me take spore prints from this exact mushroom from an outdoor grow, and you're seeing the results of about 4 series of transfers to get to this point. The next few pictures are actually clones from mushrooms, but they give a good example of different types of monocultures. The first one that you see here is Agaricus portobello, and then I follow that up with 3 different rishis. The first one is Ganoderma lucidum, and we then follow that with Ganoderma oregonese. This is a clone that I took from a mushroom we picked in the old growth forest in Washington State, and the last one is Ganoderma tsugae, and this was also a clone from a wild mushroom growing on a hemlock tree. And it shows you the 3 different types of mycelium and what you look for. So get started doing strain isolations, find yourself some great strains, and good luck to you.